Welcome to Three Championship Drive podcast on YouTube, hosted by me, Lance Caporossi. Follow me on X at Lance Caporossi, the same way you see it spelled on the screen. And check out the Three Championship Drive podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to hit the follow button over there. And do us a favor, tell a Pistons fan.
I was
How's
wrong.
that?
I was wrong. That was
Thank
the
you.
first. That was your first good one in like 6 shows, and I respect it.
And you were trying to distract me the entire time, but it's all
I didn't
good.
even do anything. I was looking at my notes. Don't even say that.
Dude, okay. Okay.
Just because I mimic you does I was honestly helping you because you seeing me say it made you say it better. I don't even have the intro script.
Well, you've heard it every time, so you should know it by heart.
I kind of hear it when you stutter it. Like I don't like you give me the remix intro every time. That was the good one. We got it.
Appreciate it. Let's get into this, though. So the Detroit Pistons have options with the fifth pick. We all know this, though. Got a handful of prospects we're going to talk about. We're also going to talk about a trade that they could make with the fifth pick and bring back another pick in 10. But we'll get into that in a second. So we're just going to talk about 5 prospects that we like. We're talking about 3 guys that we are for sure guaranteed most likely going to be drafted at 5. And then we're going to give 2 prospects that are kind of like dark horses swing for the fences. We would love to see it happen, but most likely won't happen at 5. Those are the other 2 prospects we're going to talk about, but those are our options at 5. So we'll get into it, man. You want to take the lead on this one, or do you want me to take the lead on this one?
I mean, I can run with I can give you 3 that I think could fall to the 5th spot if
All
you
right,
want to
let's hear it.
run that because I mean I could roll with this. Now I like 2 of these. One of them I don't know. I'm not really sure. With drafting this year, we got a lot to work on. There's a lot to. We talked about it before. Is like we're not really trying to draft prospects anymore right now. We can't draft a prospect at 5. We need to draft someone that's going to come in and be a 6th, 7th, 8th man rotation guy. Whether Monty wants to play him or not, if he has spite for someone, I don't know. We're going to find out. But I think for at 5th, I really like going with Reed Shepard out of Kentucky if he's available. I think he's a 6-man rotation. I think he's a better Luke Kennard. I think he could be a good fit for a rotation spot. Another guy, they have him far down on the boards, and I know that we don't really need a big guy, but I like Kyle Filipowski at 5.
I know you do. I know you do.
I think he could be a good fit there in Detroit. Whether we go and deal Jalen Duren or we deal Jaden Ivey to someone else, whatever types of trades that they're going to do, we're going to fuck it up, but we're going to trade somebody. We're going to trade somebody. They're going to end up going and win the MVP. Jaden Ivey's going to be the best player in the league. And then for the guy that I don't necessarily like because of age concern, but leadership I think is there, as we talked about, is Dalton Connect. I think Dalton Connect could be a good pick. And I think Dalton Connect could actually maybe end up being a starter with his size and how he shoots the ball. I think him and Fontecchio have the same type of game, but I think Dalton Connect is a lot smoother, and I think his defense is maybe a little bit better than Simone Fontecchio. So if we bring in maybe a guy like Dalton Connect, then maybe we don't have to keep signing Simone Fontecchio in the later years. So
Yeah.
I stop making those faces, bro.
No,
Like, I
because
told you,
okay,
Dalton
go on.
Connect. I told you, Dalton Connect. I'm not 100 on it, but I think it could be a good fit at the 5. Dude, we have the 5. We have the 5th overall pick, man. We can't. I don't know what to want anymore. I can't just tell you Alex Sarr. Like I can't tell you these things because it doesn't exist. The NBA hates the Pistons. Like, oh hey, let's do the lottery again, and somehow the Pistons are drafted in 30th, even though they had 1 win last year. I don't know how the hell that happened, but we don't get anybody. So those are my 3. Reed Shepard is my number 1. I think he will fall to number 5, and I think he's a good enough pick that it's another Troy Weaver safe in the Bahamas pick where fuck it, I'm gonna take a shot. If it sucks, it sucks. If not, I'm just still gonna keep doing my thing. So
Yeah. No, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm just going to say I think Reed Shepard at 5 would be a dream scenario for a lot of Pistons fans. Like, I don't think a lot of people are talking about him because I think a lot of us believe he's going to go number 3 to the Houston Rockets. I believe they're drafting third because it just makes a ton of sense with the guys they have there and how he could help space the floor and just create a ton of space with his 3-point shooting. I don't personally think he'll be available at 5, but Reed Shepherd is a guy that I would, like I said, that would be a dream scenario for me. I would love to have him in Detroit. But I have a player that's, you just talked about is Dalton Connect. I believe he is the most likely candidate at 5 for the Detroit Pistons. I've complained about drafting older prospects, but I'm ready to admit that he would help out immediately based on how he played at Tennessee. I still don't love him at 5 just because if you are drafting at 5, I get that we're talking about like fit and best available. I would still rather take someone with a higher ceiling because I think he is as complete of player as you're going to find in this draft, but he's a shot maker, man, from everywhere on the floor. He's the best shooter in the draft, movement shooting, spot up shooting, taking you off the dribble. He can do it all. It's just, I don't know how much better he's going to get. But I guess if it, for a team that only had 14 wins, if he can help you win a few more, it doesn't really matter. But Dalton Connect, he would be at the top of my list for the guys at 5, just because I think that's a realistic, he's a realistic prospect at 5. Buzelis, this is a dude that is just oozing with potential, and he's probably one of the 3 guys in this draft that if everything clicks for him, he's just going to be a really good player in the NBA, someone that, in my opinion, could compete for all-star appearances. When I watch him play, I'm reminded of Franz Wagner without a jump shot. I see a little bit of Nicholas Batum, Jaden McDaniels. Just a lot to love about him, but I don't want the Pistons to draft him at 5, and here's why. Because offensively, he's just not there yet. He's not a good shooter. He doesn't really have an identity offensively. Scores a lot of points in transition. He's shown flashes on that side of the ball. He can put the ball on the floor, but it's just not all there yet. And I would hate for the Pistons to draft him because I know defense is more of his calling card at the moment. It's just, if you can't shoot, and the Pistons don't really have very many floor spacers, it's just not going to be a good rookie year. And I just think fans would turn on him so quickly based on how he plays right now. They just don't have the personnel for a Buzelis on this team. So I would be out on him at number 5, but I know he is connected to the Tellem family. So there's probably a good chance he's going to be drafted at 5. A familiar name I'm about to bring up. It's Donovan Cleon out of UConn. Still one of my favorite prospects in this draft. Rim protection, finishing around the rim. I think, there's some clips of him hitting some mid-range jumpers, but he brings something to the floor that Jalen Duren doesn't do right now. And I think if you want to head into that direction of starting to win games, Cleon out of UConn is a guy that you could count on. So those are my 3 prospects that I for sure think are going to be available at 5. I've seen Cleon mocked to Houston in some mocks and everything. I don't really see it.
I don't think he's going to be available. I think he's going to be gone.
Okay.
I think he has a really high ceiling. I think he's going to be taken early. I don't think you can pass up on him. And if anything, if he doesn't get drafted at 5, he'll probably go at 6. I think he's a very good lottery player this year. I think Cleon has a lot of potential, just like Buzelis does as well.
I mean, Buzelis, yeah, I just wish there was more to his game offensively, but I think he's a guy that will eventually figure it all out. So let's talk about 2 prospects that we have that, like I said, like kind of swing for the fences. They're probably not going to, you're probably not going to take him at 5, but it's just, for me, it's a dream scenario to land one of these guys. I mean, you could, because I think they both will be available at 5. I don't see them going any higher than this, but they'd be basically a reach at 5, and that is Cody Williams for me out of Colorado. I love this guy's game, dude. Good size, could be a secondary playmaker alongside Cade Cunningham. Good defensively. He did show some flashes shooting the ball from the outside, just did not have a ton of attempts. And then Tyler Smith out of the G League Ignite. I know he's most likely going to go out of the lottery, but a bouncy 4-man that does have a nice shooting stroke, that's a guy that I would also like, because I know that they missed out on like Jarace Walker and Taylor Hendricks last year because they opted to go with Asar Thompson, which, again, I'm not complaining about, but having a 4 that can rebound, that's athletic, that can hit a 3, that is something the Pistons desperately need, and that's why I like Tyler Smith out of the G League Ignite. You got any prospects?
I'm gonna agree with you on Cody Williams was also one of my choices. for a swing for the fences and hope to God you hit something. But we've been striking out a lot, so we've been like Avi Baez at the plate. We just can't hit anything to save our life. But I have him as one of my, and then my also too is it also a G League Ignite, but it's Ron Holland. I think Ron
Nice.
Holland
Yeah.
could be a really good hit. I think Ron Holland, with him being a forward at 6'8", I think he brings a lot of size and a lot of length. His stats with the Ignite were good. He's not a 3-point threat, not a 3-point shooter at all, but he does play good defense. He averages like 2.5 steals a game. He gets at least 7 boards a game. I think he brings a lot to the team. I think Ron Holland could be. I mean, I don't like his hairline, like it's running from him, but he is fast on the court. So, I mean, we'll get him a headband, and I think he'll look all right. So, but I think Ron Holland, if we're gonna do anything crazy and trade down or trade anything away, and he's available at a later pick, I think that's something that we could take a risk on just because of what he brings to the table just with his athleticism. So, but yeah, I'd agree with Cody Williams. Cody Williams wouldn't be a bad take, but not at number 5. But I do like Cody Williams and I do like Ron Holland.
Yeah, that's the only thing is like I see all these mocks and I see Cody Williams and some he's like going to 12 to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then I see Ron Holland going to 11. But then some guys that I watch and listen to have Ron Holland potentially going number 2 overall in this draft, and it's like, man, a lot of guys love this dude, but he did show some flashes of self-creation, of hitting the outside shot. He gets after it defensively, plays with a lot of effort and hustle, and you got to love that. But also, the thing about some of these G League Ignite guys is they are playing against pros. They're playing against some former NBA players, guys that are still trying to make the league. So, when they can contribute and they can put the numbers they have been up, like, I think it says something. I know it's been kind of hit or miss with some of the Ignite guys that have already come into the NBA, like Jalen Green, even though he's, really popped off recently, but then, Jonathan Kuminga, guys like that, where it's taken a little bit more time. I don't think you can go wrong with a G League guy, though. I think they're pretty solid, but Ron Holland, yeah, another guy that I do actually really like at number 5. But again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, it's like at this point, do you keep going with projects and just hope that you just eventually one of these guys turns into a star and really helps turn this franchise around? I mean, that it kind of seems like that's been Troy Weaver's game. And hopefully by the time the draft happens, there's a president of basketball operations making these final decisions. But if I'm looking at it again, and I know I'm going all over the place, it's just, I mean, I don't know. Maybe just take Dalton Connect out of Tennessee and just say, hey, maybe he gives us like 13, 15 points per game his rookie year. And there's still something there where maybe the ceiling's a little bit higher than what we're thinking. I don't know. It's a weird draft.
Do you think in high school, do you think Troy Weaver, when they did like group projects, he just sat there and let everyone else do all the work and he took all the credit for it? Do you think he was that guy? Because that's what I think he is.
No, I don't think he was like that.
No, I don't know, man. This draft, we've talked about it way too much. Like we got way too much knowledge on these players coming into the league. So it's everything's a risk. Everything's a risk, and usually with risk you get reward or you look stupid. And we've been looking stupid for the last 3 years essentially because we haven't had any of these guys come in and actually make a big splash. We've had a lot of guys coming to be like key players, but we're not a team that needs key players. Like we need successful players, and we're not getting that. So if we take this draft and we pick at number 5, we don't trade it, and we draft another project guy, like say a Buzelis. We bring him in, we bring in a Buzelis. We don't know if he's going to be what he is when he played. And he's a bust and a flop. Dude, like how many years in a row can we keep doing this? We don't want to say that all these guys are sure-handed picks because they're not. You don't know if Reed Shepherd's going to come in and shoot 40% from 3. He could shoot 30% from 3 and be a bust. We don't know. But it's come to the point where I think we need to finally take that risk, whether we trade this pick or not, for someone that is already successful in the league. But we need to draft somebody that we know that has the potential to fit the team as a scorer because we don't have that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that every pick he's had has been like a failure. I just think where the failure lies is they just don't all the pieces don't fit together. That's something that, me and like a bunch of other, podcast hosts have already all said. Like it's nothing new. It's just the pieces are just it's so weird. Like you don't see the puzzle being put together with the pieces the Detroit Pistons have. And that's why I'm concerned. But when it really just comes down to project or fit, I would much rather the Pistons go for fit this time than go for a guy that like if he reaches his ceiling and he figures it all out, he's going to be real special in the league. But like I'm willing to take a chance on a guy like Ron Holland or Cody Williams because they do have a skill set where you're like, yeah, even if they're not the greatest shooters right now, they still provide something that can be useful on this team. And with Buzelis, it's you could probably say the same about him. It's just I don't know. It's just like the skills that he does provide. It's just like I think he would get lost on this roster, and it really wouldn't benefit him, or he really wouldn't benefit being on the Pistons because of how bad this roster is right now. But a guy like Ron Holland, Cody Williams, I don't think they would suffer the same fate as Buzelis if
But
we're
isn't
talking projects.
but isn't that the point of drafting these players is to be a fit in the team, not to just draft someone just on overall potential? Just you want to pick someone that you know is gonna his play style that you've when you recruit you watch their play style in college, whether it's college or the G League Ignite, you watch this guy play and you have to kind of put them in a just imaginary picture of how is this game going to affect the other players on the team. I feel like that's a big part of drafting, and I feel like we haven't really accomplished that. I think we've been steady drafting players that don't make other players on the team successful in a way that they should. You see all these other teams drafting players that are making like Cade Cunningham, like a Cade Cunningham player, like making him successful. And we haven't been doing that. We haven't been giving him the opportunity to pick a player that is going to be a good co-partner with him on the wing or anything like that. We've been just drafting to the point where we think this guy's going to be good, not we think this guy could make someone else better on our team.
Yeah, and it's been a disaster. That's why,
Hence Killian
like,
Hayes. Like I can't do it, man.
I mean, even when you're looking beyond the bus, like if you're looking at someone like Jaden Ivey, it's like I don't know how it all fits with Cade Cunningham. I mean,
No.
on paper and like what he was doing at Purdue, it kind of made sense, but then again, in the NBA, it just hasn't. And I mean, some of it comes down to coaching, some of it comes down to development and all that other stuff. But I think if a really good GM would identify the player which you have in Cade Cunningham, and you'd be like, okay, this guy needs X, Y, and Z. Let's go get X, Y, and Z. And that's going to make his time in the NBA a little bit easier. We're finally going to be able to build an actual contending team. But I mean, like Oklahoma City, they know that their best player is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and they have drafted players that have benefited his skill set to put him into an MVP conversation. And you're not getting the same thing from Troy Weaver. And I don't know why. Maybe he's just bad at his job. Maybe he doesn't have full control. I don't know. It's one of those two things. So, and I think it's just going to keep happening until you get someone in the position to finally say, hey, this is the direction we need to go in.
Yeah, like when we're drafting these players, I feel like we're doing the whole full send to hit someone that's going to be an all-star within the next couple of years, not someone that's going to be a team builder and be someone that supports like someone else that's already on the roster. We're just bringing in a guy that we hoped is going to be another superstar, and it just hasn't panned out at all. So I think Asar Thompson was the first one we drafted, like within the last 3 years, in my opinion, that has actually been a good fit for the team, and he provided something that we needed. But other than that, as much as I loved the Jaden Ivey pick when we did it, because I even wanted it when we picked him, like I wasn't against it at all. I think bringing him onto the team, it wasn't going to do any justice, because you're going to bring in a guy that at Purdue was a dominant ball handler, a dominant scorer in the Big Ten, which it was a weak Big Ten, but he ran the show at Purdue. And then you're going to bring him onto a team that someone else is technically supposed to be in control. So it's really hard to kind of put two guys that are going to butt heads in their play style. And maybe this year we actually bring on, like, I think Dalton Connect could be a great fit, because he's going to, his role that he already has is something that we need. So maybe we make the right move this year, or maybe we bomb again. I have no idea how they're going to do it, but it's going to be interesting to say the least.
Yeah, one final thing I'll say before we move on to the other option that we could do with the fifth pick is I think you're right. I think Troy Weaver was when he was drafting, it was I've said this before, and when he's been drafting, it always seems like I'm hoping that I strike gold with this next player. I'm hoping, and when you already struck gold with Cade Cunningham, like you already have the golden ticket. You already have the franchise player in place. You don't need to keep drafting for guys that are like, man, I hope Jaden Ivey turns into a superstar. I hope Duran. I hope Asar. You already have that guy. Now it's time to forget best player available and just strictly go for fit and start building around him. And that's my final thought on this whole draft thing. And I'm sure we'll talk about the draft next week because it's the thing to talk about right now.
Well, and I'm gonna say another thing. I'm gonna say another
Okay.
thing. Like why can't we draft like Golden State did back when they had their run? They were constantly drafting pieces to the team surrounded or that Steph Curry had people surrounding him with. Like drafting Steph Curry, drafting Klay Thompson, drafting Draymond Green, bringing all these guys in that were fits to the
Yeah.
team, not bringing in this guy that we thought Klay Thompson was going to be a superstar. They brought Klay Thompson in because they needed another scorer that can move off the ball with Steph Curry. That's why they became so successful. And then they're like, oh shit, our defense has been a little bit lackluster. They brought in Draymond Green. They drafted him, which was a late first round pick. So I think if we start maybe thinking more outside of the box of adding additions to the team that will make us successful instead of what we've already said, adding a player that we think is going to be the best player on the team, which we don't need. We need a supporting cast. We don't need the all-star roles. If we can get a supporting cast, then maybe it'll be a better season. But, 14 wins, I hope to God it's a better season. But I digress.
I thought we'd have a better season after going with winning 17 games the season before, and they regressed. It was bad. So we do have a trade. This comes from Bleacher Report, and it's Jaden Ivey, Asar, and the fifth pick for Dejounte Murray and the first overall pick. I just want to ask, do you think this trade is worth it? Do you think the Pistons are giving too much up for Dejounte Murray? Like, what are your thoughts on that when you first hear this trade?
They're giving Atlanta the golden ticket if they make this trade. I think if they take Asar Thompson, Jaden Ivey, and the fifth overall pick just for one player, I think Atlanta would crush this draft because then they can draft. They'll take Alex Sarr at number one, which we've talked about. It's not a clear cut, but it is a clear cut. Like the I would say 80%, 90% chance they're going to take him at number one overall. And then you give him the fifth overall pick, which then they're just going to draft a guard to replace Dejounte Murray, which at number 5, they could end up grabbing Rob Dillingham or Reed Shepard. Like they could put someone in place or Stephon Castle, which I've seen a lot of talk with him moving up on draft boards. Now you're giving Atlanta more opportunity to be successful and you're just taking one player. I think you're giving up way too much. Now, if you want to make a trade to take on Dejounte Murray, that's great because I think Dejounte Murray is an all-star. Like, I think he is a great player. Fit-wise with Cade, not really sure. I think he'd be a better fit than Jaden Ivey is. So, and I think Cade, because Dejounte Murray's been in the league, 4 or 5 years?
More than 4.
Yeah,
probably
he has
like 6.
6 years. Like, he has experience, and I think that'll help Cade progress a little bit better. Because I think he could be a better teacher. Because Cade doesn't have anybody to give him any type of stability or learn from other than coaches. Because he kind of he's supposed to be the guy. Like he's supposed to have all this knowledge. He has no one to kind of look at to be a better player. I just think the only way that I would make a pick like this is I would not give up Asar Thompson. Like if you want to give him the fifth overall pick and Jaden Ivey for Dejounte Murray, I say that's more of a probability. But I don't think you can get rid of Asar Thompson with it.
So he has been playing for 6 years, and I might have messed up when I was talking about it. The Pistons would get the first pick overall back in that trade. They get Dejounte Murray in the first pick. Okay. So I was going to let you go with it. I was just going to let you go with it. My bad. I apologize if you were thinking.
I could change my take. That's a little bit better because then we're going to get a big out of it as well.
Yeah.
Because then you'll be taking on Dejounte Murray and you'll have Alexander Sarr. and you'll be getting rid of Asar Thompson and Jaden Ivey. That's not a horrible deal. I don't think that's something Atlanta's really willing to give up, though.
Yeah, it really depends on if they want to continue to build around Trae Young and a lottery pick or not. I don't think Atlanta does the trade. I know that there was interest, I believe, from Atlanta in Jaden Ivey and I think Asar Thompson for Dejounte Murray earlier in the year. I could be getting that wrong. I'm just doing it off of memory. I personally, I really like Dejounte Murray, and I think I'm one of the different Pistons fans. I think he actually does fit with Cade Cunningham because he gives you good size. He shoots around 36% from three, I think 45% from the field. He was 25-5. He's been healthy the last 2 years in Atlanta. He's only missed a total of 12 games. He's reliable. He's out there. He was an all defensive team member. I think the defense is more on rumors now. But who knows? Maybe in Detroit he gets back to it, though. I mean, he's still good defensively. He's just not like he was in San Antonio. And I know a lot of keep going. I always say I know a lot of Pistons fans like that they don't like the fit with Dejounte Murray because they say that he doesn't provide enough spacing. My counterpoint is then Cade should be providing a little bit more spacing for himself and the other players. Like we need Cade to be shooting more three-pointers at a higher percent to open the floor for everything else. Like we can't just completely dismiss an all-star and an all defensive player because, oh, well, he doesn't shoot 38% from the three-point line. Okay, I mean, like he's excellent in a bunch of other areas. I kind of lean more towards making this trade. I really don't want to give up Asar Thompson in it. I'm okay with trading Jaden Ivey. I'm okay with giving up the 5th pick for Dejounte Murray, but I'm like hesitant to pull the trigger because of Asar Thompson because I like what he brings defensively, and I believe he will figure out his jump shot in the NBA because he already started to make strides in the second half of the year. I would have to do the numbers to provide that for you, but I think he was shooting like close to 30 or 32% from three the final few weeks that he was playing before he went out with the blood clots. So I believe in the 3-point shot. I believe in the work that Asar Thompson puts in his game. That's why I would not be willing to give him up in this trade. But bringing in Dejounte Murray, yes, I would totally make this trade. So how do you think Dejounte Murray helps the Pistons if you think he helps them at all?
Well, I'm going to go back just to the last thing real quick is if we have the opportunity to get rid of Asar Thompson, like if this trade, like if it's on the table and all we have to do is click enter on it, I think I'm going to take it just because I understand that you like Asar Thompson. Like I get it. I think he could be a good fit. I think he could I don't think he's going to be an all-star. I know that You've been saying that. I do not see that in him. But for health reasons, I say you send it. I say if they give you the opportunity, I think you take this one. And I don't think you look back at all. I think you take it. We keep asking to do something, make a trade, be different. Like for the love of God, we don't care who the hell it is. Like just do something. Can we get a headline somewhere? Can we be important? Like the only thing we're getting headlines of is Will Bynum doing insurance fraud for the Detroit Pistons. Like no one gives a shit about our team. Like let's make a splash and let's see if it hits. We have nothing to lose. Like there's nothing that's going to hurt us right now. If Atlanta is willing to do this deal, you take it. You don't look back. You close your eyes. You hit the button. Even if Dejounte Murray's like, fuck, I got to play in Detroit now. Who cares, man? At least we're making some type of move. And when it comes to Dejounte helping the Pistons, he's not going to hurt us.
Okay.
It's not going to do any bad for us unless he comes and we pay him and he gets hurt. That's the only thing that could happen, but then it can happen to anybody in the league. So I don't know how well he's going to fit. I think he's a great player. It is fun to watch him. I don't know. I still don't know about Cade's fit because I think they both are kind of a drive and pull up for a mid-range type shot. Like Dejounte Murray, he shoots well from the perimeter, but it's not his strong suit. The only thing that I think that he will do well for us is his perimeter defense. Like I think that'll be really good for us. I think if you bring on Dejounte Murray, then you can kind of replace Alex Sarr with a little bit of length because Dejounte Murray is kind of, I wouldn't say the same physique as Asar Thompson when it comes to length, but he does play good defense. So we get a guard in himself that can score the ball and defend on the other end, probably a little bit better than Cade could. So, but yeah, I I don't know about the fit, but all I do know is that I'm tired of sitting here and doing nothing. We're sitting on the sidelines all the time. We're not making any moves. We're watching everybody else do it. We need to do something different. And if this is it, then let's run it and let's see what happens.
Okay, so you're in favor of the trade.
I'd be okay with it. I didn't know it was us getting the first. I thought we were giving up so much just for. I was like, when I read it, I looked. I was like, that seems really shitty. But it also looks like Troy would be like, that looks great. So I'm just gonna do it. So it's like they could have accidentally like had a typo, and they're like, oh, that does look good. Hit it, and they're like, oh shit, I did not mean to give them that, but all right, I guess I'll take it. So I would be okay with making this move because it's a start. It's a start to doing something. It's a start to changing the roster a little bit. I know that we talk a lot about your core four and keeping and getting rid of, but if we end up getting the number one overall pick, if we go ahead and go with Alexander Sarr, then I mean Stewart and Duren are going to be on watch for any type of movement somewhere, I think, because you're bringing in another big, because you want a 3-man big rotation with this. Like, so I think doing a trade like this could really shake up the whole roster with making moves, with adding other pieces.
All right, before I give my answer on this, I do want to correct something. Asar Thompson shot 27% from 3 in his last 22 games.
That's you at the Y, brother. 27%.
No, I'm like 32, but
nice dude.
In terms of him, how does he help the Detroit Pistons? You know, gives you another ball handler, gives you a guy that can play defense. He's averaging 25 and 6, I think, with the Atlanta Hawks his 2 years there. I mean, there's a lot to love about his game and what he provides. He's giving you an all-star caliber player, and he's doing the things on the floor that you're hoping a Jaden Ivey or an Asar Thompson will eventually get to. And I don't know if they reach those heights that Dejounte Murray has reached. So that's how I think he helps the way. Just defensively, gives you another playmaker, can set things up. He can hit an outside shot. He can take over the game in the final 2 minutes. We've seen that with Atlanta. He does play winning basketball. It's just his style really hasn't gone deep into the playoffs. It's more of like he's helping you get to the play-in. But also I think some of the teams he's been on, they just really haven't been built to make those long runs into the playoffs. So I don't know. I think he's a plus player to bring to the Detroit Pistons. Again, I just probably want to keep Asar Thompson in that trade. But I do understand what you're saying about him, though. Like, there's still a lot of holes to his game. We're talking about Asar that you're like, look, I'm willing to pass on this because I don't think it's going to pan out the way you're thinking it will. So I'm willing to pass on him and go for the more proven commodity.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, again, solid trade. It's just I don't think it happens, though. What do you think it's easier to do, to build through the draft or build through trades and free agency? Now, obviously, you don't just only build a team through the draft, or you only build a team through trades and free agency. But throughout the last few years, the Toronto Raptors, they built a team through the draft and traded for Kawhi Leonard to push them over the top. The Miami Heat signed LeBron and Chris Bosh and bought a super team to compete for championships. The Golden State Warriors, they built their big three through the draft and won a couple of championships, then added Kevin Durant. The San Antonio Spurs are a team that have always really typically kept it in-house. Oklahoma City is one of these teams that, yes, they did trade for Shea, but primarily their roster is made up of draft picks that they have hit on. So what do you think is the easiest way to, or I shouldn't even say easiest way, like what's like the best way to build a competitive team?
The best way is to draft them. You want to bring them into your organization. You want to kind of breed them how you want them to be, but we don't have a positive organization. So it's probably not a good idea to do that in Detroit. If we're going to keep, like, we don't even have a president of basketball operations right now. And we're can't really breed draft picks to come into Detroit. Like, oh, hey, who's your boss? Don't really know, but you're here. So as of right now, I think the best way to do it is to take your draft picks and to kind of turn them into something that you want them to be. Like, that could be that's what Cade's going through currently, is coming into Detroit, coming into the organization, and then just kind of running with what the ways of Detroit is. Granted, his ways is only winning 20 games a year. But I think the best way is to bring in the young men and have them on your team, teach them the ways that you want them to learn, build them how you want to shape them. Now, being successful, I think free agency is the play. Like, you're bringing in guys that are already in the league. You get veterans, whether they're 6-7 years in the league, 4 or 5 years in the league. You get a guy that you already know what they bring to the table. So I think it's a lot easier to bring these guys in and know what they provide already, instead of drafting somebody that you have you see their stats in college, but you really don't know what it's going to turn out into the NBA. If he shoots 40% from three in college, it could be 42% in the NBA, or it could be 35. You don't know. So, but if you're bringing someone in that already has proven themselves as an NBA player, I think the free agency bet is not the best play, but it is a good. I think for the Pistons, it's a better thing to do for us is to attack in free agency, whether they're drafting players, because our luck hasn't been good recently. So I think if we're going to try to be successful, I think we need to look other places to bring in guys that are veterans to help a team that is really struggling, than bring in guys that are 19 years old that really don't know the way of the NBA yet.
I think it really depends too, like how your structure in your organization is, when like development and coaching. Like if you have those things in place, building through the draft is an easier way because you can save a ton of money just by having these guys on rookie contracts. I remember, it's a different sport, but the Seattle Seahawks were able to build that great defense around Russell Wilson because he was playing like an all-pro quarterback on a rookie deal. I mean, it saves you a ton of money. But the Pistons, I mean, their 04 championship, that was built through trades and free agency. The only guy that started that they drafted was Tayshaun Prince. I mean, Kerr, he didn't start, but he was another guy they drafted in the second round that played significant minutes for them during that run. But they were a team that built it all through free agency. I know it takes a combination of all these things, but a lot of these teams, like if you can hit on the draft picks, that's great. But if you're a team like Detroit that has struggled drafting and developing players, going through the free agency is probably your best bet, because then you at least have a few seasons to see how these guys play, and then you can connect the dots that way. So this brings me to our first free agent we're going to talk about, and this is Miles Bridges. Now he's been talked about to the Detroit Pistons before my son was born. Like, I mean, it's been a long time he's been rumored to the Detroit Pistons, and he's a player that brings a ton of controversy with him. I'm not excusing anything he's done. It was stupid, and I don't think the NBA did enough in terms of a punishment. I think he should have been punished a little bit longer. I know it was like 30 games, but then I think it was just 10 games into the season. I mean, he did miss an entire season as well, rightfully so. But I'm also a person that believes that we all make mistakes, and he made a huge mistake, and he also deserves a second chance like we all do. I mean, I think it's that's just the route we go. Like, I mean, we got to be fair to people. Like, he's a young guy that made a horrible decision, and hopefully he's learned from it, and he mans up after it. But in terms of basketball, you really, I mean, if you're the Pistons, you kind of got to take a look at him, because you have no NBA talent on this roster. So bringing in a guy that averages 21, I think 7 and 3, not a bad look. He can go over the top of the defense. Solid catch and shoot 3-point shooter at 38.2 on 4 attempts per game. Delivers scoring, rebounding, playmaking to the team. He would be the second best player on the Detroit Pistons. But what are your thoughts on Miles Bridges being brought to Detroit?
Oh boy. Everything you said, yes, we all understand as people, we all make mistakes in life. Like we do. I've screwed up multiple times. I can't tell you, and I won't tell you stories because I ain't gonna embarrass myself in front of people. Yeah. But we've all been there. And I think he's kind of accepted that, and he's kind of learned from what he's done. And I don't think it's fair to hold that against him by any means. Now, it is a bad look for him as an individual, but I think he's already kind of established that. But off the court, on the court, it's really hard to talk about, because you don't want to bring that type of stuff up. So all I want to say is that even though what he did, he took the time, or the NBA gave him the time that they thought he needed to be suspended. He did his time. Whether it was the amount of games that we thought it was or it wasn't, could have been 100 games, could have been 20. It doesn't matter. That's not our call with what suspension he got. He did it. He took care of it. I think I read something about him like doing therapy stuff. Like he's been working on himself, which I think he needed to do because he is a damn good basketball player. Like I think he has so much. Like we talked. I don't know if it was last episode or the episode prior to. We talked about Tobias Harris. I think he is a Tobias Harris on roids. Like this guy, no, he's great.
No, I agree.
Miles Bridges is so good and he's still young. He shoots the ball so well. The authority that he has going to the rim is insane. I love Miles Bridges. And whether you want to talk about off the court incidents, I don't care. If we're talking about basketball, we're talking about improving a team. Like if you can get this guy, you do it. I don't want to say you go all in on it because I don't think he hasn't been in the league long enough with his off the court antics for him to establish to be an all-star player. But I think if he could put a whole 82 game script in, I think he could make the cut to be an all-star. I think he has all the potential. He shoots the ball well from three. And I'll tell you what, though, when I watched some of the Charlotte Hornets games when he came into the league, first of all, Charlotte Hornets, oh my God, their broadcast is phenomenal. Those guys are insane to listen to.
They are.
And I tell you what, anytime Miles Bridges put his nuts on someone and dunked it, those guys would let you know that he did that. And it was insane. Like Miles Bridges could be the X factor to this team. And as much as you said that he would be the second best, I think he could be better than Cade Cunningham. If you give him the opportunity to be a scorer, don't make that face. If you give him the opportunity to be a scorer, I think at 6'7", 225, the way he moves, I think he could possibly be tied or better than Cade when it comes to putting up numbers for this team. And I think you go for it. Like we talk about Tobias Harris a ton. And if you have Tobias Harris and you have Miles Bridges and you have money and you're like, well, we have to pay Miles Bridges a little bit more than Tobias, I think you fucking pay it. I think you do it. I think you bring him in. I think you'd be a great fit. And especially say we do the trade that we get Dejounte Murray. If you get Dejounte Murray, Cade Cunningham, and Miles Bridges, we are talking about a whole different Pistons roster right now. And it could be but then again, we say this and we win 10 freaking games, and then we go back next year and we're like, all right, well, we're not going to talk about that again. So I don't think you can miss with Miles Bridges. I really don't think you can. You mentor him, you work with him. He is a great basketball player. Person, I don't know. Never met him. I have no idea. And the sad part about it is, though, is he's from Michigan State. So it's like him having all these things happen to him being under Tom Izzo really just blows my mind because Tom Izzo is a class act. So it's like him coming from Michigan State and having these issues maybe makes you think that him going to Charlotte was just not a good spot for him. And maybe coming back to Michigan could be a good spot for him where he's closer to home, closer to where he played college basketball. That might be it somewhere where he wants a fresh start, and I would be 100% okay with it.
Yeah, he might be a guy that needs a veteran coach like a Monty Williams to look after him too. I mean, I don't think Monty's more of the nurturing type, but he might talk to him like, hey, man to man, because I know Monty is a family guy. Like he's very much about his family. So maybe he is the type of dude that like gets in Miles Bridges' faces and lights a fire under him. I don't know. But again, in terms of basketball, you're talking about a guy that averaged 21, 7, and 3, shot 45% from the field, 52% effective field goal percentage, around 36% from 3. Like he's a guy that really just 35% from 3, excuse me. But again, 38 on catch and shoot. This is a guy that really helps the Pistons out. I'm still going to say he's the second best player because I don't think he's as much of a shot creator as Cade Cunningham is, and he has thrived playing next to a point guard like LaMelo Ball when he's been healthy. Yeah. They've been a fun duo, but again, the Pistons, they need talent. They need NBA players on this team to win games, and that's what Miles Bridges provides. And I think, human beings, like, again, like just going back to the off the court stuff, we do all make mistakes. We can be horrible people, but like also the thing about humans is we are willing to give second chances. And, you may not want to root for them, but at the end of the day, you're not rooting for the person, you're rooting for the basketball player. And I think a lot of people's opinions would change if the Pistons start winning. Winning cures all. I'm not saying it's right, but that's just what happens, when guys make mistakes like this. You start winning, people are like, okay, I'm not willing to forget what you did, but I am willing to forgive. And it's kind of weird that it works like that in sports in a weird way, but I don't know. I'm all for giving him a second chance. You know, I
I think
wasn't originally at first, but the more I thought about it, where I'm like, man, if I talk about the mistakes I've made, people would be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just
yeah,
glad people were willing to look past that and actually give me an opportunity.
correct. I think him coming back to where he was raised, I think that would be I think it's a good idea. Like
Okay.
I think that'd be I think that's a smart play not only for him, but for the Charlotte Hornets as well. Because I mean, putting someone into a different setting can kind of create a whole new person. And I think with Miles Bridges, man, I said it and I'm going to say it again. I don't think you missed with bringing him in. I don't think that's a bad move by any means. I want to take this risk. I've seen some types of free agency talk with him coming to Detroit. I think I saw some of it midseason last year or whatever about him coming to Detroit, and that was I think when he was dealing with what he was going through. And everyone was probably I mean I'm pretty sure he got booed at all the games that he played in when he came back. Like everyone, like okay, congrats! Like you're yelling at a dude that fucked up. Like I don't know if you yell at yourself when you make a mistake. So I think Miles Bridges, I think you put him in a new setting, you put him in under a new staff, you put him in a different roster, and especially like say we do keep Jaden Ivey and we have Cade Cunningham and we have Miles Bridges. Miles Bridges played with LaMelo Ball, yes. He also played with Terry Rozier, and I think Terry Rozier, it's Jaden Ivey be like a poor man's Terry Rozier, but he still played with those types of players, and I think that could work well for him. I think
Okay.
I think it'd be smart for a career decision to make a move out of Charlotte and have a fresh start somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree. A fresh start would probably do him wonders. But we'll see when the offseason continues. But he has been rumored to Detroit for quite some time. But I do want to make this small little note too to a lot of fans. Since Detroit has so much cap space, pretty much every guy that's going to be entering free agency, they're most likely going to be rumored to Detroit just because they have the most cap space to play with. So, take all these rumors with a grain of salt. So we do have a trade, and it's from my boy Brandon Ingram. This comes from Bleacher Report. We're going to talk about it. The trade is Evan Fournier, Isaiah Stewart, Quentin Grimes, and a 2027 first round pick for Brandon Ingram. Look, New Orleans, they're going to look to unload them. They got Herb Jones, they got Trey Murphy. These are two players that they need to give minutes to that are rightfully due to start making starts for the New Orleans Pelicans. So I believe Brandon Ingram is on the move. I don't hate the trade. I don't want to give up Gwen Grimes or Isaiah Stewart because I think Isaiah Stewart could be a solid backup. But man, to bring in Brandon Ingram and I because I think his talent alone actually outweighs the rest of the guys that are going away. I would most likely pull the trigger on this trade, even though I do think it's a lot to give up. But I do love the fit with Isaiah Stewart in New Orleans. Because I mean, dude, him and Zion, like, I mean, it's a little bit smaller of a front court, but Isaiah Stewart provides toughness, hustle, a little bit of an outside shot to create space for him. That would be something to see in New Orleans. But what are your thoughts on this trade?
Do it. If it's a thing, do it. Like I'm going to say it every podcast if I have
Every
to.
trade?
Do something different. Be different. Like stop just accepting. It's like we accept defeat. We throw the white flag up for everything. Like just do something different. And if you can get Isaiah Stewart out of Detroit, oh my God, please send him out of Detroit. I think giving him a contract was a horrible idea. I'm not an Isaiah Stewart fan. I know you are. I never will be an Isaiah Stewart fan. The only reason I liked him one time was when he fought LeBron. That's about it. I don't care. I say you need to do something by now. We need to make some type of effort to show that we want this team to be successful. We need to make a trade. We picked up free agents at the end of last year, but it didn't matter. We had 10 wins. It didn't matter. Like you grabbing free agents at the end of a horrible season, that's not a great look at all for me. So if you have an opportunity to bring in Brandon Ingram, in which I would end up buying Lance a Brandon Ingram jersey, like instantly, just for an early birthday Christmas present for him, because I know that he would love it so much. He'd hang it up on his little collage that he's got back there, or maybe he'd wear it for me during the stream. But
I would definitely wear it.
But like, I think you splash somewhere, man. And granted, if we pull this and Brandon Ingram comes, I think that's all of our cap space. Like, I think we're gonna lose a lot of money on that. But I think you got to do something here. And I think Brandon Ingram could maybe put some more fans in the seats. He's going to obviously give us some more points, which we don't score a lot of because we lose a lot of games. So I think it'd be a great idea. And a 2027 pick, dude, who cares? Send it. Like, whatever, man. Just get it out. It's not that big of a deal. Like, if anything, we need to tank again to maybe get Cooper Flagg for next year, but it doesn't matter. We could have we could have a 95% chance for the first overall pick, and somehow we're drafting 12th. Like, it doesn't matter. So we're gonna get 5th next year, no matter what. I don't care what anybody says. That's what we're prone to. We're just gonna go 4 years in a row, and we're gonna draft 5th. But I think I don't say that. I think you make a move if you have the opportunity to do it.
So you're just making a move just to make a move, though. You don't care who
these
the
are,
player
but
is.
These are bringing these are bringing in good players. I'm not saying bringing Grayson Allen on a deal. I'm saying these are good players. Stop it. These are good players. These are next year we're gonna have Reed Shepherd and Grayson Allen at the 2 and the 3. They're gonna be amazing. We got the white guys shooting threes all day. Like,
dude, Grayson Allen was killing it this year, though.
Yeah, because he didn't trip anybody. Like I'm saying I'm bringing stars. I'm not saying bringing Bob, that's the janitor for the Detroit Pistons, to come and play. Like, I'm not saying that type of change. I just think, no, shout out to Bob, but I don't understand that we're not dipping into any type of pot to move any of these guys around. So I think Brandon Ingram is an all-star. I don't know if he's going to be an all-star in Detroit right away with just the stat line. Like, it's going to be really hard for him to put up the numbers he put with New Orleans because he had more opportunity in New Orleans. But I think potentially we have the opportunity that he could be an all-star.
Yeah, he's an all-star talent, just like Dejounte Murray is. They're both, I mean, they have 2 all-star appearances between each other. I mean, each have 1, but they both are all-star talented players where, you bring them in. I mean, they're going to be 1 or 2 of the best players on the Pistons. You know what I'm saying? And like, how much I love Brandon Ingram. Go ahead.
Number 1. No, they're going to be better.
Oh, okay. So you're saying
they're going to be the best. Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, like, Brandon Ingram, I know, again, there's fans out there that don't want him to be brought to Detroit because they're like, well, he takes away from Cade. He does the same thing as Cade's. Again, dude, you cannot want to continue to pass on guys just because you think they're going to make life more difficult. Look, I watched all the Pistons games, and to watch how the defense collapsed on Cade Cunningham because there was no spacing, because there was no other threat on the floor, he has to be miserable. It's basically saying, give me anybody that can take the eyes off of me for a few possessions. Brandon Ingram, Dejounte Murray, both of them do that. Miles Bridges, does that. Yeah, Grayson Allen, he does that. You know what I'm saying? Like, having NBA talent does that. So forget this whole, well, he might be taken away from Cade, or he does the same thing as Cade. Okay, that's fine. I don't care. A good coach is going to make it work. He made it work with Zion, and, he made it work with CJ McCollum. They've been to the playoffs. So, I mean, why are we sitting here complaining if we're Detroit fans that, oh, man, it might take away from Cade, or I don't see the fit with Cade? I don't care if you don't see the fit. He's just a better player to play alongside Cade Cunningham. He is going to put butts in the seats. He's also going to help generate wins when he's on the floor. So I'm all in on Brandon Ingram. And I really think people just kind of, they look at him and they're like, he just shoots too many mid-range jumpers. Yeah, I would like for him to shoot a few more threes. But, dude, if mid-range jumpers are his bread and butter and he's effective at it, okay, cool. That means I need Cade to shoot more threes. Have him be the guy that spaces the floor for Brandon Ingram and vice versa between each other. But I don't know. It's just, give me Brandon Ingram. I'm willing to make the trade. It's fine with me. That's it.
Why are people? Tell me why that everyone always like bringing in a player. The first thing they think of is why it's going to affect, like it's going to negatively affect someone else's game. I feel like that's always the talk. It's if he scores 23, then Kate can only score 16. Who cares?
Yeah, as long as
Who
you're
cares?
winning.
Win some damn games. Like it's back to what Doc said a couple of podcasts ago. Can you win some games? I don't care who's scoring 40. Marcus Sasser could put up 60 points. I don't care. I don't care. Malachi Flynn could average 45 a game. Just somebody, for the love of God, score the ball. And that's where we're at. So who cares if Brandon Ingram comes in and takes a couple possessions away? But if his plus minus is better when he's on the floor with him, who cares? It doesn't matter. So I think generally, like we're arguing with ourselves, trying to protect someone else's future. Like it doesn't matter. You bring in another player that's good, he's going to make that guy good. It works in every type of situation that you're in. Like when I played college, when I was playing ball, like you bring in someone that's just as good or better than someone else that is a starter. It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, all it's going to do is make you compete better. And that's not what we're doing at the moment.
And I mean, if we're worried about Cade's stats, like CJ McCollum was still putting up buckets in New Orleans. Zion Williamson was doing the same thing too, alongside Brandon Ingram. I think all of them averaged 20 or more.
Great players will score.
Yep,
It's going to happen.
ways.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe you bring in a Brandon Ingram or a Dejounte Murray, and Cade folds, Cade collapses. Then we maybe see that maybe he isn't it. Maybe he's not the guy because just because he's unsuccessful with another superstar doesn't make him that we don't have to look at the guy that they brought in as being a bad player or any aspect like that. Like Cade needs to be able to play with other good players. Like we're not going to win games if we do not bring in other candidates that are going to be all-star players in this league. Like no team right now is successful with one all-star or no all-stars on their team. Like you need to have guys surrounded by good players that are not just role players. Like you need someone else that can score.
Yeah, nobody's game is so good where it just elevates pedestrian players. Like, I mean, even LeBron to win had to play with all stars. Like Jordan needed Scottie Pippen to win championships. Like it's just what happens. And I mean, if you are always every time there's a player that's available and you're always like, it's not going to work. I don't like it. It'd be better if he was here. Blah blah blah. It's like then you really don't want to see a winning team in Detroit. Like, I mean, I'm not saying Brandon Ingram is the cure all to Detroit's woes, but like he can definitely be a piece to get you back to the playoffs, especially in a weak Eastern Conference. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like some of these teams are going to be making moves that are because they're going to be wanting to, make a push for one of these top draft picks, like a Cooper Flag or whatever. So now is the time to strike. But in order to strike, you need players that can help you make that happen. And Brandon Ingram is one of those guys.
Or we just draft Bronny James at 5 and just bring in his dad and say, screw it. Let's see what happens.
He wouldn't come to Detroit. He knows it. All right. So I got 5 free agents that I would like the Pistons to take a look at. And, I'm sure people are going to laugh at it, though. But here's the thing. I'm not going to put a list of 5 or 10 players that I think – because I've seen some list out there, and I'm like, dude, there's no way. Like, as much as I love Malik Monk, I don't think he's going to come to Detroit. Like, I don't see why he would. I don't even really think about Malik Monk in a Detroit Pistons uniform. Like, I think about, like, Lonnie Walker or Malik Beasley. I think those are 2 more realistic options that could still help the Pistons. But let's get into my list. Number 1, I have Markelle Fultz. And again, stop before you laugh. I know he's the former first overall pick. I'm not bringing him in because I think a change of scenery is going to change his career around and he'll start living up to the draft status. But I'm bringing him in for what he brings to a team as is. He's a 6'4", 210-pound guard that gets after it defensively, on the ball, off the ball, high basketball IQ. Unfortunately, he has been struggling shooting the ball. Like his 2 seasons in Orlando, he was shooting, like the last 2 seasons, he was shooting 50 and 54% from the 2-point range. Field goal percentage was 47 and 51%. Now this past year, it still was 47%, but he has taken a little bit of a dip in the mid-range. he's more one-dimensional offensively. But again, like you talk to Orlando fans, he's a guy that's helped kind of establish that culture in Orlando, but they're kind of out on him because, it's been a few years. The shoulder injury continues to persist. He's dealt with an ACL, so they're out on him, even though some fans would say he's probably their most talented guard in terms of like playmaking and setting up the offense. But at this point, he's more of a backup, and I would love to see him and Marcus Sasser come off the bench. And I think you could play him with Cade. Again, not much of an outside shooter at all, but hey, Pistons need talented players. The second guy on my list, Gogu, I hope I'm saying his name right, or Goga Barazzi, a big who provides excellent passing from the post, sets a mean screen, finishes around the rim. He doesn't space the floor. He's only 24, but when he was starting for Wendell Carter Jr. for the Magic, they really didn't miss a beat. Like, he was a very solid player for the Orlando Magic. I think they have a log jam up front, and he could be brought in for probably, I would assume, probably around like maybe 10 million at the most, just because he still kind of is an unknown commodity. But I like Gogu Barazzi. I like Najee Marshall from the New Orleans Pelicans as well. Solid rotation piece. He can space the floor for Cade. 38% from three, 42% from the corner, 39% on catch and shoot, and he's a plus defender on and off the ball. Like, he's an excellent 3-and-D player, but there's a log jam in New Orleans, so he's not getting a lot of minutes. He'll be looking. You might have to overpay a little bit for his services if you're Detroit, because that's just what Detroit has to do. But I think he would be an excellent player. This one's going to be funny, and I know people are going to laugh, and they're probably just going to shut this off the moment I say his name. But it's Gordon Hayward, bro. Another veteran that can shoot, bring a little playmaking. He was good in 25 games this past season for Charlotte, averaging 14, 5, and 5. I still think there's a little left in the tank, and I can't imagine a contender is going to try to bring him in. So if I'm Detroit, and if you're Gordon Hayward and you still think that you can play in the NBA, why not show out in Detroit? And maybe they do something nice for you by trading you at the deadline and flipping you for a piece. He did not play well for Oklahoma City. I know he was coming back from an injury, like he's pretty much dealt with his entire career. But when he's healthy and he's actually in basketball shape, he can still provide a little bit. Like I just said, 14, 5, and 5 in Charlotte. Gary Trent Jr., he's on a lot of people's list. I agree with all these guys. If you can bring him in from Toronto, you should. Very good outside shooter. I think he was dealing with an injury, but it seems like he's starting to get a little bounce back. But, I mean, he is just a shooter, and that is pretty much all he provides. And I would still like him in Detroit because we need shooting. So that's my list of 5 free agents I would like the Pistons to bring in this offseason.
So I didn't know if I was supposed to make a list, so I think I'm
No, you can just follow off.
Okay, I'm just going off with what you said. I don't agree with Goga. I think we're really slammed with bigs right now. I don't think we need to add anything extra when it comes to bigs. I think honestly at the 4 and 5 department, I think we're looking okay. I know that you're not huge into James Wiseman, but I think James Wiseman, Isaiah Stewart, and Jalen Duren right now are a good 3-piece that we have rolling with Detroit. So, I mean, I think it's a waste of money to go and get him. Not saying that he's a bad player or he doesn't have potential. I just don't think that's someone that you want to dump a little bit of the cap space that we have into him for a contract deal. Out of all of these guys, I really like Najee Marshall. I think he's the best fit. I think he would be worth giving some money to come to Detroit to play. I think he would do very well. I think he has size. I think his game would fit. I think he would fit well. I don't know how many minutes he would really get because I think he would come off the bench when he first would start in Detroit. So, but with what he did with 66 games played last year and shooting almost 39% from 3, and 80% from the free throw line was actually pretty impressive as well. So I think that he would be a really good fit. But I also liked Markelle Fultz, and I think. But Markelle Fultz, man, he's not a centerpiece. He's not a centerpiece by any means. And I bet your jump shot looks better than his. confident. I just don't think I like what he brings to the team. Now, I know how you said that you would pair him with Marcus Sasser off the bench. If you bring in Markel Fultz, I think you get rid of Marcus Sasser. I think that's something that you would do there. I think he would be an upgrade to Marcus Sasser because I think Marcus Sasser lacks size. Not saying that I love Marcus Sasser's game. I really do. I think he lacks size. I think the game, when I watched him this year, I think the game is really slow to him. So it's really hard for him to figure out where he needs to go with the ball. I think Markel's more of a veteran. He's not going to provide you with shooting. So that's why if you bring him onto the floor, when you sub someone out, you sub Cade out for 4 or 5 minutes to give him a break. You pair Markel Fultz with shooters. And I think that could be successful if you're going to keep like Quentin Grimes on this team. I think it could work really well. Now, depending on how much you got to pay him to bring him into Detroit for a 1 or 2 year deal, that's obviously up in the air with that. I don't want to waste a bunch of cap space on a bunch of just a couple potential players from free agency that are going to be good for us. But I like Markel Fultz and I like Najee Marshall. I do not like Gordon Hayward. Do not.
I know you don't. I know you
do
don't.
not. His knees are jello. Get out of here. You're done. Like, I'm sorry. He was a stud. He was so much fun to watch. He was a very good basketball player. But once his knee was gone, dude, he's done. He's not really recovered since, and it's unfortunate because he was a really good basketball player, but it just hasn't been the same since. And I think that's a waste of money to bring him in. Yeah, it's a veteran to maybe come in and mentor, but we got to stop doing that. We got to stop mentoring people. Like, we need to bring in guys that are actually going to play and put up numbers for this team. And I don't see him being a part of that. And then Bismack Biyombo falls also with I think we're overloaded at bigs. Now, if you're going to bring in another big, I'd rather have Bismack Biyombo than Goga. I really would. I like Biyombo's game a lot better than him. But no, the Gordon Hayward thing is not going to happen. Please don't do it. I'll buy a jersey just to strap it to the back of my car and drag it on the concrete when I drive to work.
Oh my God.
I'm not, and respectfully, like I just think Gordon's done. He's done. He keeps getting signed to these teams to go out there and be like, all right, let's give him 6 minutes, and it's like, all right, well, he's 0 for 4 now. I guess we'll sit him down for the next 3 games until he comes and we try it again. So. But I think if you're gonna attack any of these guys, I like Najee Marshall, I like Markel Fultz. But if I'm gonna pay $10 million or $8-9 million to a player, I think Najee Marshall is your better bet because I think you're right. I think he does need to get out of the situation he wants to be in because I think he could be a good fit somewhere, and I think he needs more minutes than he gets.
Yeah, and real quick, for people that are wondering why Zach said Bismack Biyombo, he was on my list.
Oh, you didn't talk about him. Who else? What was the other guy? Didn't you say another?
Yeah, I said Gary Trent Jr.
Gary Trent Jr. We did talk about Biyombo today.
Yep.
I could have swore.
We did.
But anyway, Bismack Biyombo. No, I'm just gonna say it now. And now I gotta say Gary Trent Jr. because I did like that. I did like that one as well. Gary Trent Jr. to me is like a Patty Mills. Like, you could bring him onto the team and he'd be a shooter. He'd be an instant, like he should be an instant shooter. But with the roster that we have with Quentin Grimes, I don't think you bring in Gary Trent Jr. I think they're the same kind of not the same type of player, but the role that they are supposed to lead for the team with shooting threes and moving off the ball. I don't think you have both of them on the team. So I think you have to kind of make a decision whether you would want to pay Gary Trent or keep Quentin Grimes on the team. Now, I'd rather have Quentin Grimes for defensive purposes, but I wouldn't mind a Gary Trent to come in with, like, I think that could be a Markel Fultz and a Gary Trent would not be a horrible idea to come in as like a 7-8 man rotation. So, I mean, Bismack Biyombo, why did I say that? Like, I think it's because I got caught up when we were talking about it before we started this. It's like, I can't believe you put him on that list. Like, why are you talking about this guy?
Okay, I put him on there because I thought...
Well, you need to delete him next time because it caught me off guard that he was there. And I was looking at it, I was like, I don't know about this guy. I'm not really...
wondering why you brought him up because I'm like... I'm pretty sure I deleted it, but I didn't delete it from the main note.
No, so I'm looking at it right now.
I apologize for that.
That's fine. I'll take 50% of the blame on that. But anyway, Lance wants to bring him in, and I don't. So veto.
I do like Bismack. Dude, for like 8 to 12 minutes, that's fine. You know, bring a little defense at the front court. We don't have that.
I'm 6'5". I can screen. Dude, pay me $400K. I'll come play. I'll get in shape right now. I'll hit the weights. I'll be ready to go by tip. I can play. I'll be your ninth man. All you want me to do is set screens. I can do that. You don't even pay me $1 million. I got it. I promise.
I love how you're just like, I'll be the ninth man on an NBA rotation.
I got this. I got this, dude. Let me go to the combine.
18 and you're the ninth man. That's awesome.
29 years old. I got zero NBA experience, but I think I could go out and be a good centerpiece for the Pistons on ninth man rotation.
I mean, you never know, dude.
No,
I mean, stranger things have happened. So I'm glad you like majority of my list. I'm a little disappointed though that you're out on Gogu Badatsi because dude,
I'm out because George Blaha would just rip this guy's name to shreds every time he checks into the game. So I'm good. I don't need to hear George struggle to say it every single time. We're good.
He's a professional. He'll figure it out. But I mean, he's a good European player, man. Like I really like his game, and again, doesn't have the potential of a Jalen Duren, but he provides what Jalen Duren doesn't, and that is rim protection, which is something the Pistons desperately need. I do think Gary Trent Jr. is a better defender. Like I know I just said pretty much a shooter, because that is what he is. Like, I mean, he's very good at shooting the ball, but I think he is more of like a 3-and-D type of player. But I can't believe you'd want to get rid of Marcus Sasser. Yeah, he doesn't have the size. That's why you pair him with a bigger guard like Markelle Fultz off the bench. You know, you got the spacing in the shot creation. They got Markelle Fultz, high basketball IQ out on the floor right there. I think there's a match made in heaven. Thunder and Lightning.
Dude, stop. Thunder and Lightning for the 6th and 7th man on our team. That's crazy. We're NBA championship bound with led by Marcus Sasser and Markelle Fultz.
Yeah. Dude, it's happened with small backcourts before in Detroit. Lindsey Hunter and Mike James.
Oh boy.
All right, let's get into like what we really should be talking about, because we have just had a lot of fun on today's podcast, and that is the 4 front runners for the president of basketball operations. So the names are Langdon. I always say his first name wrong, and I've been made fun of too many times, but Trajan, I just butchered it right there. Langdon, current GM of the New Orleans Pelicans, climbed the ranks from San Antonio to Brooklyn and now New Orleans. He's apparently a solid draft guy, but does not kind of stinks with the contract negotiations. Then there's Scott Perry. You've heard his name before, current analyst for ESPN. He's known for cleaning up the New York Knicks books and getting them a surplus of draft picks. He's also had 2 stints with the Detroit Pistons in 2004 and through the 6 conference finals appearances. He apparently didn't do a good job of rebuilding the New York Knicks, though. Then there's John Hammond. He's the current senior advisor to GM Jeff Weltman of the Orlando Magic, was with the Pistons before leaving and taking over the Bucks, would most likely delegate all of his responsibilities. He's also 69 years old and most likely isn't on the Pistons timeline. And then there's Dennis Lindsey, current advisor to the Mavericks, was the general manager of the Utah Jazz, built it actually a very solid team in Utah, but could never find the player to take them over and up and deliver them to the promised land. But these are the 4 candidates. And now that Minnesota is still there. I forgot that Tim Conley is no longer with Denver. He's still with Minnesota. I'm positive you can say he's out as a candidate for the Detroit Pistons president of basketball operations because the Minnesota Timberwolves are still in the playoffs. So I would count out Tim Conley. I don't think he's going to miss a chance to collect his championship before, the postseason is over. But what do you think about this list? You got any more information on these guys?
I dove into it a little bit. Now, we talked before pod that I was pretty interested in Scott Perry, just another Michigan man coming in. He was also hired with Detroit by Joe Dumars in 2000s. I think that's nice for him to be a part of the 2004 championship. I think that's important now, but that's just back history. And then we're having conversations about who have these guys brought in, who have they drafted. Now, this guy was a part of drafting Kevin Durant to the Seattle Supersonics in 2007. That's important. That really is important. It's nice to see. But also, Kevin Durant was kind of a surefire pick at number 2 overall in that draft. So it's not really saying a whole lot. It was one of those picks that you can't really miss. Now, I know that you were saying how much you like Trajan Langdon. I think he would be a good pick. It's so tough to tell, man. I like Langdon because he's only 48 years old. His experience is still climbing in organizations to become that guy. It's just I think we need to get someone that is willing to own and actually like take charge of the organization. And I think Trajan Langdon could do that just because of his age and being as elite as he is already at 48 years old. So it's such a toss up. And I know that whenever we ask to interview one of these guys and they turn it down, we'll have another podcast of you talking about how much you hate them. Like I don't know. It's so tough. Like the interview process is just it's a weird thing that we're going through. But it's nice that we have some type of list and some type of opportunity to look into who these guys are. But and what you said about Conley, I don't think he's staying. Like Minnesota just beat Denver in a 7-game series. Like he's not going to leave. Now the pieces of that team might move around, but why would you leave if you have the opportunity to win a championship with the roster that you have at hand that you help be a part of? So I don't think he's going to make any type of moves unless they want to they have to clean house with contracts, but they're not going to have to. Like Minnesota's going to be here, I think, for the next 4 or 5 years because again, I think Ant is a dog, and they made a real good decision of bringing that man in. So, but I think Scott Perry is one of my top. I also like reading into Trajan Langdon. I liked him as well. So we don't know. I'm hoping that they start to. I think we need to have this search come to an end here soon. I think we need to kind of pull a trigger and put someone in the seats to start making decisions before we get so close to draft time. I don't think it's something that we should keep waiting so long on. So I don't want them to rush hiring someone into this during this process, but I think we need to kind of start making more moves and start having more opportunity to see who's actually narrowing candidates down.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, you really need to get someone in place before this draft happens because everybody doing the scouting and evaluating is in the front office, and there's a good chance they're not going to be in the front office when this new guy is signed. I'm for Trajan Langdon just because he is younger. And I love the fact that he's had to work his way up. There's nothing given to him. And he by all accounts, he has made some solid draft selections for New Orleans. Like they have a cool, fun little team right there. I mean, like he identified Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, brought those guys in. And I think that says a lot. So again, contracts, that might be his weak point, but that's something he can figure out. I mean, he has Arn Tellem right there. That dude knows an NBA contract from being an agent. So he would be my guy out of these 4. I mean, John Hammond, I think if he was really coming in to take over as the president of basketball operations, I'm afraid that he might just delegate everything, which isn't a bad thing. But when there's just so much of the front office that is mishandled, I would rather have the guy being like, I'm going to do full control. I'm not going to delegate anything. I'm coming in here to deliver this team, and this is going to my fingerprints are going to be everywhere on this. So I don't know. I agree with you. It is really tough to kind of evaluate these guys unless you really dig deep on what they've done in the NBA. But Trajan Langdon, that's a guy that I am, I am, but based on what I've read, I'm a fan of and the moves he has made. So he would be my option out of these 4, and I hope he ends up getting the spot.
We just need to make sure that if we're gonna make this move, it needs to be done at least a month or so before this draft, so whoever we bring in can actually put their marks on this draft. Because if we're gonna hire somebody, we don't want to hire them post draft. Like that doesn't make any sense. You want this guy to come in and build what he wants to build, make trades, and especially too, like the faster we bring him in, the more opportunity that he has to actually go into free agency or make trades with this draft. Maybe deal the number 5 pick to Atlanta for the number 1. I think you got to do it now. Like we got to figure it out within the next month or so of who we're gonna put in that seat, because we talked about it 100 times. We don't know if you're gonna put in someone like that, and the first thing they're gonna do is deal out Troy Weaver. We don't know, or they're gonna keep Troy Weaver, and Troy Weaver's gonna keep doing his job, and then we're just gonna keep having the 5th overall pick for the next 12 years. So we don't know. but I think it's something that needs to be decided on because I think it's a very important role to this organization right now. Like we're in desperate need for a leader that wants to have a successful team, and we have a fan base that's starving for something good. And right now, like they need to. If they don't do something before this draft and we draft with Troy Weaver and then we sign a president of basketball operations, I feel like we're starting to rebuild at zero again, and we can't do that.
It would be really funny though if Troy Weaver gets to do the draft and then he gets fired like a month after they sign the president of basketball operations. Like it'd just be so crazy and
It wouldn't
really
make any
funny at the
sense.
same time. Yeah,
wouldn't-
I mean, it
wouldn't
wouldn't
make
make
any
any sense,
sense.
but it's the Detroit Pistons. Nothing makes any sense, including trading your franchise point guard way back in the day,
Man,
and it has very
Man.
much cursed the franchise.
that was devastating, dude. That was that actually broke my heart. Like dealing him away, like I couldn't believe they dealt in him and brought in the washed Allen Iverson of gambling problems to MGM Detroit. Like that was a great idea. So, and we can talk about this.
I don't even know if what you just said was actually accurate at all. Okay. Yeah, so here's some quotes from Joe Dumars after this trade was made. He said, in this league, 6 or 7 years is an eternity to have a core together. So when a situation like this presents itself where you can cover yourself on both sides, the immediate impact player and the long-term flexibility, you have to push the buttons. We just felt it was the right time to change our team. God, you were so wrong. Iverson gives us a dimension that we haven't had here, and we really think it's going to help us. Now, I get why. I mean, really, I don't even actually understand why you traded away Chauncey Billups. I know it's because Rodney Stuckey, they thought they had their point guard of the future with Rodney Stuckey. So they're like, hey, we're going to clear room and we're going to bring in Allen Iverson that also plays guard. I thought if you were going to make a trade, the guy to trade in the backcourt was Rip Hamilton, just because I think Rodney Stuckey's career is much different if he has the chance to play with Chauncey Billups, who's very good at setting the table, controlling the pace, getting guys to their spots. That would have been his career would have been much different if he had played with Chauncey in the starting lineup. He was too much of a combo guard. He wasn't a point guard like Chauncey. But the trade went down and things have not been good since. Chauncey went on to go to, I think, make another all NBA team or all defense team, while also making another all-star appearance, while also getting to the Western Conference Finals with the Denver Nuggets. And that was incredible. Do you believe that the franchise is cursed since this trade has gone down?
Yes, it's the same thing with the Lions, man. Like we need Chauncey to come back just to do a run that like Peyton Manning and Jeff Daniels did for the Lions, to go in and just do their little skit talking about the curse and how it needs to be ended. Like that ever since the Peyton Manning Jeff Daniels thing, well, we made it to the NFC Championship game. So I 100% believe it, and I can't believe to this day that we made that deal. That did not make any sense to me from day one. There was not one part of it that, because Chauncey was my Piston. He was my favorite player on that team. So it really hurt for them to deal him, because it's not like he was on a downslope of his career. Like he was playing similar every year in and year out. So I didn't think there was any reason to move him like they did. Bringing in AI was a horrible idea, and I was not for it at all. So it is cursed, and how nice it would be for them to do some type of ritual at Little Caesars Arena, even though I don't even think it should be done at Little Caesars Arena. That's not where it started. Little Caesars Arena, I don't think is part of the curse. I think they need to go way back. So I don't know, man. It sucks. It sucks that we've kind of had to deal with this ever since this went down. And I don't know how as a GM or president of basketball operations you break up a team, or you transition someone that's already brought you so much success. I don't know why you do that. I don't see what part of you does that other than maybe, we're not selling enough tickets, let's bring in this guy. I don't know
either.
There's no positives. There's zero positives about it, and all it did was hurt. Like Chauncey was loyal, man, and I think he loved playing in Detroit. Like he loved being a part of it. So you're trading away a guy that brings us a championship in 2004. Like, what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah, he did finish his career in Detroit, but that season he was traded to the Denver Nuggets, he was 6th in MVP voting, All NBA third team, and an All-Star, and then he was an All-Star his final full season in Denver, where he averaged 19 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, while shooting 39% from 3. Yet those 2 games that season in Detroit, he did average 12, 7, and 5, but it's just 2 games. They were like, up 2 games, he's over. He's done with. Get him out of here. And he goes on to make 2 more All-Star appearances. Like, it's just absolutely insane. Here's the thing, though. I don't think you can bring him back to break the curse. I think it has to be Isaiah Thomas has to be the player, and it has to be – or Kevin Garnett. Because him and Kevin Garnett were really good friends, and Peyton Manning had nothing to do with the Detroit Lions. So maybe you just bring in like Kevin Garnett. But either way, I was thinking you bring in Isaiah Thomas and then you bring in a comedian like Michael Key from the Key and Peele show, because he's also from Detroit. And I believe he's a Pistons fan. Or Jalen Rose. Maybe you have Jalen Rose do something with the Detroit Pistons to break the curse. But the curse needs to be broken. Maybe you could have the dancing usher in the background. I don't know.
Now do you break the curse and bring it to Little Caesars to do your ritual, or do you go to where Auburn Hills, the Palace of Auburn Hills was, and just do it where it lies and just do it there?
I think you have to break the curse at Little Caesars Arena because it's currently affecting the Pistons where they play. But it's a good idea to bring it to the Palace of Auburn
You do
Hills.
both.
You could
Do both. Do something. Like, let's make a sitcom out of it, I guess. But that skit, the Peyton Manning's and Jeff Daniels skit, was amazing. And it was hilarious the way they did it. And the fact that it actually was a turnaround was the funniest part of the whole thing. So, but yeah, bringing in KG, that would be pretty funny. Or Jalen Rose, I would be down for that.
But I do have a prayer to break the curse. So I'm going to say my prayer on the podcast, and this is how we'll end it.
Is it a story? Like, how long did you work on this? I need to know.
It doesn't matter how long I took to work on this, but I'm going to say my prayer. If you would close your eyes, just let me pray to the basketball gods and just listen to me. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm going to read it for you right now. Basketball gods, we come before you today with hearts full of hope and faith, seeking your divine intervention for our beloved Detroit Pistons. We ask for your blessings upon our team, that they may rise above the challenges that have beset them and find their way to victory and glory. Lord of game, we acknowledge the struggles and hardships that the Pistons have faced over the years. We ask for your forgiveness for any wrongs that may have contributed to this challenging period. Cleanse the team of any negativity and break the chains of any curse that may be holding them back. We pray for strength and unity among the players, coaches, and staff. Fill their hearts with determination, perseverance, and the spirit of teamwork. Guide their minds and bodies that they may perform to the best of their abilities, and grant them the wisdom to make the right decisions on and off the court. Bless the fans who have remained loyal and steadfast through the highs and lows. May the support and enthusiasm be a source of encouragement and inspiration for the team. Unite the entire Pistons community in a spirit of hope and positivity. We ask for your protection over the team, shielding them from injuries and misfortunes. Grant them good health and the resilience to overcome obstacles. Let your light shine upon them, illuminating their path to success. Lord of game, we believe in the power of your grace and mercy. We trust that with your guidance, the Detroit Pistons can overcome any curse and reclaim their place as champions. We place our hopes and dreams in your hands, knowing that with you, all things are possible. In your holy name, we pray. Ball don't lie.
Amen. That was ridiculous, Lance, and I'm all for it. That's crazy.
That's my prayer to break the Pistons curse, and hopefully it happens.
All right, so this is what's going to happen. We go this season and say we make the play-in, we make the playoffs. You need to go back to this, and you need to release this, and it needs to be a thing. It needs to go back to Instagram. We need to reel this out and be like, you guys are fucking welcome that we did this for you, because we're the reasons why that we don't win 14 games.
Dude, if they win 25 or more, my prayer is broken the Pistons curse.
That's good enough for you?
Dude, they just won 14 games. Are you kidding me? Yes, 25 wins is fine. Like, I'm not saying they're going to win the championship next season. Are you freaking kidding me, dude?
You better
25. My prayer broke the curse.
You better hope Kate doesn't get hurt or something bad happens.
He's not. I just put a prayer over the team. Dude, are you kidding me? I literally just saved whatever was going to happen with that prayer to to the Lord of Game. That's the God of basketball, the Lord of Game. And yeah, that's it right there, man.
Tell a Pistons fan. Like I don't know when you do these things. I don't know when you sit down and you put this together. I don't know where your stories and your power of prayer comes from, but I guess I can get behind it as your co-host and support you through all of your nonsense that you put through. And hopefully 25 games is something that we get. And then we get 25 wins, 20 to 25 wins, and then we get the first overall pick in the lottery next year for Cooper Flagg at a 1% chance.
I mean, man, if that happens, it happens. That'd be crazy.
It won't happen. We're fifth.
Well, you never know. You never know.
This is ridiculous, man. Like how I don't. It's crazy, man. Like that you've been doing this so long. Like I've joined within the last month or two and been a part of this, and I respect the grind, Lance. Like I respect just going through all of the downs of this team and having a positive attitude about it, because it must really hurt, man. Love is hard sometimes. And
Dude, even if I wanted to give this up, I couldn't. There's just this voice in my head that's like, dude, you're so close to whatever you're trying to achieve. I have no idea.
this is
but
the power of the basketball gods
yeah.
talking to you in your sleep.
Yeah, Lord of Game, dude.
Yeah,
Talking
Lord
to me
of-
in my sleep. Yeah, he
yeah,
comes and
you're-
visits me all the time. It's not always pleasant. It's just...
He comes and sees you at the Y, Lord of Game. I want to make this shot.
Oh man. That's let's just end this. It's been too long. Thank you guys for listening to the 3 Championship Drive podcast. Do us a favor, go to Google, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow. After you hit the follow button, rate with 5 stars, and leave a review by telling us who you would sign this offseason. But more importantly, tell a Pistons fan.
And pray to basketball, Lord of Game.